So we're going to be taking the granny square today and we're going to be transferring it into half of a motif. Isn't that cool? Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Stitch Sessions. If you're new here, I'm Karen and I'm very excited that you're joining me today. If you're a regular crochet friend, welcome back. Today we are going to follow up on a crochet project that we worked on just a few videos back, where we worked on the Daisy Granny Square. Isn't this pretty? This is probably, I think, one of the more popular crochet granny motifs out there. People love this motif. Now, you can do all kinds of things with this, especially in blankets. This gets used a lot in blankets. And sometimes instead of the traditional way to keep it all squared and linear, sometimes people like to do it in a diamond shape. So inevitably what happens, if I take this and I take this, inevitably what happens, the end of your blanket or whatever project that you work on, you have these little edges that have gaps. Now, some people love that because it creates its own border. However, some people would like to straighten off those edges. And this is where the half Granny Daisy comes into play here. So that way you can fill in the gaps. And that is how you would be able to straighten out the edge of any of your blanket or Afghan projects. And I know that people, once they do a square motif, they're always curious, how do you do the half motif? So in today's tutorial, this is what we're going to work on. So you can see that this is the diagonal half of the granny square. So I'll just bring back the square again. So you can see that's the full square and this is 1/2 on a diagonal. And then in a separate tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how to create a nice straight edge along the bottom. This really comes in handy, most especially when you are sewing them together. Because a lot of times when we start doing borders into the edge here, like if I bring this one up, it's kind of bumpy and a little bit, we'll call it organic. But if you really want a nice finished straight edge, so you can see that there's a little bit of a defining line, I'm going to show you the technique to do that. But I'm going to do it in a separate video, so that way you can always just reference it directly and get right to the heart of what you would like to do. And this principle would apply to anything that you would want to place some kind of edging around when you're working into the sides of stitches. And in fact, you've probably seen me use this technique on a few of our pillow projects from our Pillow Talk Crochet series. And if you are curious to check out that series, I will leave a link to that playlist in the description box down below. That was part of our 2023 crochet series. And if you're new and you might be wondering, well, what's 2024's crochet series? I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below. This year we're doing Home Sweet Home. And look at how sweet this little motif is. You could definitely use this motif to create some interesting home decor crochet projects. But that's not what we're here for today. Today we are here to talk about this half granny square. So let's just get to it. Okay, now I am going to be using the same colors I used in the full square motif just to keep things consistent. This is the Bernat Premium yarn. It is a medium 4-weight yarn. As I've discussed in many videos before, it's one of my favorites to work on really fun, cozy projects. And just love this yarn. And it comes in such a variety of colors. It's such a great line to use. Okay, so I have the lilac, the pink, and a little bit of this greeny, maroony teal color for the center, okay? The hook size I'm gonna be using today is a 6mm hook, which is also known as a J or a size 10. This particular yarn recommends a 5mm hook, but usually I tend to go up, either a 5.5 or a 6. I find that it helps my stitches to just sit nice and relaxed, especially if I'm doing it for blanket projects. If you are a tight crocheter, for example, I always recommend you go up a full hook size, especially when you're doing things like blankets and Afghans and things like that. You want the blanket to be relaxed and cushy. So that's what I tend to use. And then as always, make sure that you have a yarn needle on hand to weave in your ends. You're gonna have quite a few of those ends. And a handy pair of scissors to snip your yarn. So let's get started here on our half square. Okay, so we're going to begin from the center, just like we did with the square. We're going to begin from the center and work our way up. Now, I want you to notice something a little different here. And that is, I use two different methods with these two to begin. So here in the center, you can see that there's a little gap there. And I used a little chain 4 ring. Now, I know a lot of people are not comfortable with the cinch circle, so you can certainly do that. Even with the square, you can do that. So that's how it's going to look. It's just going to continue to be nice and airy there. And then you can also just use the simple cinch circle method, which I tend to be a little bit more a fan of. I like closing in that center there so that it's nice and snug. And I just feel like it creates a more uniform look. But you can do what you prefer. For this tutorial, am going to go ahead and show you with the cinch circle. Okay, but the method of working into the ring is the same thing. Okay, so we're going to begin with our teal color here, and we're going to start by creating a cinch circle. And so it's just like as if you're going to do a slip knot. You're just going to insert your hook, pull up a loop, but you're not going to cinch that shut like a slip knot. You're just going to kind of keep that loop a little bit tight there, and then chain 1 to secure. And that is your cinch circle. And then you're just going to pull that tail out. So when we do a square, the center of our square here, normally we want 12 stitches. So if we are going to have that, we are going to do 6 stitches. So we're going to place 6 stitches in our ring. Now it does depend on the granny motif that you're doing. Sometimes when we're having certain motifs, we want an odd number. So sometimes instead of 6, we would have 6 as half, but we would add 1 more to make the sides even. I am still going to keep my half at 6 stitches. So we are just going to insert our hook, and we're going to pull up a loop, and we are going to create a single crochet. And then we're going to do that 5 more times so that you'll have 6 single crochets in our circle here. Okay, so I have 6 single crochets in my ring here. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that tail, see? And that's just going to cinch my center nice and shut like that. And don't be afraid to pull it nice and tight so that it really cinches in the center. I'll just pull that up. So now you can see you've got a very tiny little semicircle, okay? And if you prefer, some people like to weave this in right away just to kind of get it out of the way. Then just weave that little tail in at the end, and that way it'll really kind of secure it from loosening up. Now we have 1 more row to do in this color. So usually what I do is I wait till I'm done the 2nd row, and then I kind of weave them in and tie them together so they're nice and secure. So that's row 1. So we're working in rows now because we are going to have to turn our work here. So row number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1. We are still going to do single crochet stitches. We're now going to turn our work. Okay, so you have something that looks like that. And now what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet again, 1 into every stitch, but I'm going to work into the front loops only. So if I just turn my stitch, see how those V's are there? These are the front loops, are the ones closest to you. The back loops there are the ones furthest away from you. So I am going to insert my hook into that front loop only and single crochet. And I'm going to do that all the way to the end of the row. So there are no increases here. We're maintaining our stitch count at 6 stitches. So that is our magic number here. So there is 5. And then we've got our last one, which is right there. And that is 6. Now you may wonder, well, why the front loops and not the back loops? And that is because this is actually going to be the front of my motif. So you can see that by working into the front loops, well, this now when we look at it this way, they're the back loops. You can see that these front loops here were pushed forward. And I like to create that little definition in the center. So if I just kind of pick up my one here, see how you can see the center has a little bit of definition? I just think it creates a nice finished look. So that is why I went into the front loops. Okay, so row number 2 is complete. We still have 6 stitches. And now we can snip our yarn and fasten off, just like that. Okay? And so we still have that nice cute semicircle. Okay, so now would be a good time maybe to weave these 2 ends in just to get them out of the way so they're not visually distracting. And then we're going to go into row number 3 with a brand new color. Okay, so next we are going to introduce our lilac color here. And we are going to find that very first stitch. So I want to make sure that my ridge is facing the front. So this is going to be my right side. And I'm going to insert my hook into that very first stitch here. Okay. And then I'm going to place the yarn on my hook. So I'm not using a slip knot. I'm just going to pull it through. And I just throw that tail over and chain 1, and my yarn is secure. So what we're going to do here is we're going to chain an additional 3. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So this is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 2. Normally I do chain 5, but because of this motif being on the end, sometimes if I chain the full 5, it just adds too much bulk here. So for those of you that are a little bit more experienced, you may have noticed that sometimes I'll fluctuate with this. So I tend to chain 4. So 2 of these chains are going to count as a double crochet and 2 are going to count as the little corner space. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create those same clusters that we did in the original granny square. Okay? And so we're going to yarn over and we're going to work our way back into the same stitch. And I'm going to try and work over that tail there. You're going to pull up a loop and you're going to begin a double crochet. So I'm going to pull through 2. So I have 2 loops on the hook. I leave those loops there and now I'm going to start another double crochet. Back into that same stitch and then pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2. So I have 2 double crochets that are unresolved. Now I'm going to do this one more time. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, and then pull through first 2 only. So I have 3 double crochets that are unresolved, and then this is a chain 2 space with a double crochet. We'll say those 2 chains represent a double crochet. So now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of these stitches, and then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So this is where we're going to follow the same method as the full square motif, but what we had to do is create this little partial corner here so that our half has a little bit of structure here to sit on, because in the subsequent rounds we're going to need a little space there. Okay, so you can see the corner space here and the corner space here. So this is a partial corner because remember, when you look at it this way, it's part of a square. Okay, so now you would just continue repeating this cluster chain 3 stitch into every stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into the next stitch and then create my next cluster. So there's 1. I yarn over. I begin a second double crochet, only pull through 2. Yarn over, do it a 3rd time, only pull through 3. 4 loops are on your hook, yarn over, pull through all of them. Okay, there's your cluster stitch, and then you always chain 3 to create a space. Okay, so you're going to do that all the way to the end. Now we'll meet you in the last one because there's just something a little different we're going to do at the very end. Okay, so I just finished my 5th cluster, and remember our magic number is 6, so we still need 6 clusters, right? There's the space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got one more stitch left, so I'm going to insert my hook right there. And I'm going to create my next cluster. I'm just going to go a little quicker because you guys have seen this before already. Okay, and there we have it, but that's not the end of the story. So remember, we started with a partial corner here. We have to have another partial corner there. Now you're thinking, corner, it still looks kind of round. You'll see in a moment. So right now we've got that prominent semicircle look, and these are the petals of half of your daisy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to chain 2, that's our corner space, and then I'm going to double crochet into the last stitch, or into the same stitch here. So we're in the beginning, we chain 2 to represent this double crochet. Here we're just going to double crochet. And now round number 3 is complete, or sorry, row number 3. So we're going to snip our yarn and we're going to fasten off. Okay. And here is our semicircle. Now it will have a tendency to kind of curl on each end because there's some extra stitches here. Do not worry, it will all blend in nicely at the end. And actually, this is why some people will tell you they prefer to use the chain 3, because it just gives a little bit more relaxed kind of edging. I use the chain 3. I still, you know, for me, it created the same effect. So, you know, it's a personal preference. So this is what it's going to look like at the end. So it's not really much of a straight edge, is it? But that's where that finishing edge will really give your work a nice look. So for now, we have completed a row number 3. We've still got 6 clusters. And now we're going to go on to a row number 4. We're going to change to our pink color now. And this is where we're going to start creating these prominent corners that you're going to see. Okay, so I'm bringing my pink color here. And what we're going to do now, again, make sure that the right side is facing forward. And we are going to work into this first corner space here. So we're just going to insert our hook and pull up a loop. Throw that tail over and chain 1 to secure. And so what we're going to do here now is we are going to chain 2 more, and this will represent a double crochet. Okay, so this eventually will sit nice and flush here. Okay, so this counts as a double crochet, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go back again into this corner space, and we are going to place 2 double crochets. So we have 1 and 2. Okay, so this is a shell stitch, including the chain 3. You've got 3 double crochets. This will become part of our corner. So, you know, traditionally when we're in a corner, we have 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. Now imagine cutting this in half. So you've only got 3 double crochets there. So that is what we're doing here. Okay, so that is a half of a corner, or a shell stitch. And now what we're going to do, into the next 2 chain spaces, we are going to place a shell stitch, but we're going to do them with half double crochet stitches. So we're mimicking what we did with the full square. So we're going to pull up a loop, and this time we're going to pull through all 3. Okay, and again, I like to work over my tails. If you prefer to weave yours in at the end, you do you. Okay, and then I go into the next, oops, I'll have to weave that one in after. So go into the next space, 1 half double crochet, 2, whoops, and 3. Okay, so now we're getting more of a straight edge as opposed to a circular shape. So now we've come to the next space, and this is where we're going to create the point at the top. So this is going to be a full corner, like a traditional granny square corner. So we are going to place 3 double crochet stitches. So we're back up to double crochets now. So we've got our second one, and then we've got our third one. Then we are going to chain 2, and we're going to go back into the same space again and place another 3 double crochets. And you can already see that it's taking shape. Okay, there we go. So now you can see, okay, we've got a corner here. This is a partial corner. So if I turn it this way, you can really see it's created a straighter edge. Now we're coming down the other side. So what you're going to do now is for the next 2 spaces, the 1 and 2, you're going to do a half double crochet shell. So 3 stitches here, 3 stitches here. And then remember this space here? Then you're going to place 3 double crochets there. And that's the other partial corner that we're doing there. Okay? So half double, double. So go ahead and do that, and you will have completed row number 4. Okay, so row number 4 is complete. And so you can see that your ends, I call them the jowls, the little jowls here are drooping, and that's because of those little chains there, but do not fret. But now you can really see that it is becoming a partial square, yeah? So I like to do one more row. A lot of people, when they do the daisy motif, they may just stop there because now you've squared off your motif, you're good to go. I like to create an additional row so that it really defines the squared shape. It creates like a beautiful frame. So even in the square, you can see, I just find that it creates this really pretty frame of the motif. And I did it as well in the half square motif. So that's what I'm going to show you here, and we're almost done. So what we're going to do here is we are going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, I'm not chaining 5 to help prevent too much of this jowl situation happening. And so this is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 2. And now I'm going to turn my work. So this is the first time we're really turning our work other than when we're in the center. And I'm going to work back into this very first stitch, and I'm going to double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work into the front loops only. So we're aiming to create that ridge again right there. Okay, just like that. So this is also now a partial corner for our 5th row. Okay, so it's a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. We are now going to work 1 double crochet. So they're all going to be double crochets now. And by the way, you should now have 24 stitches in total for round number 4, not counting the chain 2. So now we've got full stitches to work into and not really spaces. So I'm going to now double crochet into every stitch into the front loops only. Okay, and that is all you're going to do for this row, and you will be complete. Okay, so I just wanted to pop in real quick just to show you. I've been working into the front loop. Look at how pretty that looks. So you're creating this beautiful finished edge. When you get to this corner, traditionally, you know, we would do a shell, chain 2, shell, but we want to be careful here with this motif because when you're doing a solid square, too many stitches in the corner will cause your work to bunch. So in this case, for row number 5, all we're doing is we're placing 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet. So it's just enough to keep that corner shape without overcrowding the space. And then I just continue on 1 double crochet into the front loops of every single stitch, coming back down. Okay, there we go. So you see it's not too bunched in there. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so I'm coming down to the last stitch here. So this is the top of the chain 3 here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a partial corner. So I'm just going to insert my hook. It might be a little bit snug. I'm going to help it through. So I'm going to place a double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And if you feel more comfortable doing a chain 1 instead, you can certainly do that. Okay, so this is now the end of row number 5. Our motif is complete, and you should have 28 stitches in total now. Okay, so I'm going to snip my yarn, and this is the back side. So I'm just going to show you, look at that. Look at how pretty that ridge is and how finished that looks. So you can see it's got a little bit of this jowly bit happening there, but for the most part, if I take now 2 squares and place it in a diamond pattern, we now have, look at that, that's going to fit just beautifully. Okay, and of course once you block it, it'll just fit nice and snugly. And this is where, you know, most of the time I say don't worry if you're like 1 or 2 stitches off. I mean, as always, it's not the end of the world. There's ways to fix it. But in motifs like this where you're going to sew them together, you want to try your best to really keep your stitch count consistent. It's just going to make life easier for you, but it's also going to make it look much more professional and nicely finished at the end. Okay, so there you have it. There is the half motif. I hope it kind of demystified how to figure out how to split things in half, especially on an angle. It's really funny like that. So I did all the math for you, so you don't have to. Again, there's many ways and many tutorials out there on the web of how to create these motifs and how to create the half motifs. I always like to add my little twist to it. So for example, doing the idea of going into the back or the front loops only, just to kind of make it a little bit more unique. So I hope that this method was nice and clear for you, and it made it easy for you to follow. And as always, if you have any detailed questions, please do feel free to leave them for me in the comment box down below, as well as any requests, by the way. Sometimes I get people asking me or requesting to do certain motifs or certain stitches. I'm very happy to accommodate. And if your request still has not been seen on the channel, perhaps maybe just try sending me another message again, either in the comment box or emailing me directly. It's not that I am ignoring it or I might have missed it, because it's still just me. It's a one-woman show. So I'm very happy to accommodate if I can. If it's something that's a little bit above over my head, then I will certainly direct you to someone that can do it, okay? And for those of you that want to email me directly, as always, you can email me at info@crochetcrafty.com, and come and visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com. There's lots of free goodies there for you. And make sure to sign up for my newsletter, where you will be the first one to receive the free written patterns that I release. Okay, so that's all for now. Now there will be a follow-up tutorial on how to create this nice, beautiful finished edge. So see the difference between that and this? So this is going to make your life a lot easier once you're ready to sew these things together. So it's just going to give you a nice finished edge. So again, I'm making that a separate tutorial so that it's just a small, concise video directly about this particular topic, and that way if you ever want to reference it again, you can just get right to the point instead of watching this whole video on the motif first. Now sometimes I get comments that say I talk a little bit too much during my tutorials. Yes, that is me. I just talk a lot, but I am a professional teacher by trade. I've been teaching ballroom dancing for 28 years. I am very good at what I do have to say. And I really like to make sure that people get the concepts nice and clearly. So I really want to make sure that as you all come along with me, that the concepts make sense. So I guess when I'm explaining or over-explaining, I'm really kind of trying to make sure we take the newer crocheters along with us. I want to make sure people don't feel left behind by going too quickly. So having said that, if you are a more experienced crocheter, then just reference, most of the time when I have motifs and things like that, I will, in the description box, I will have timestamps for you. So you guys can just skip over my blah, blah, blahs and go directly to the particular row, or the beginning or the end of whatever you prefer. So yeah, so that's the deal with that. I just want to make sure that everybody is understanding the concepts clearly, because that is the whole point, I think, of why you clicked on the video, right? You're looking for someone to take you step by step, patiently and slowly and thoroughly, to explain to you how these things are done. And that's like how I learned a lot more of the advanced concepts as well many years ago, is by watching videos. And I really appreciated the people that explain the why behind things, because then that will give you the freedom to create your own designs. And that's why a lot of the videos behind the Crochet Quick Chat series was born. And if you're curious about checking out that playlist, I will leave a link to that in the description box down below. I think you're going to find it very, very useful if you are curious and interested in creating your own designs, especially to do with crochet clothing, etc. All right, so that was a long-winded outro. I hope it all makes sense. Make sure also to say hi to me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at The Stitch Sessions. You guys know I love it when you tag me in your projects. I want to see what you guys are up to. And I also am really happy to share them on my Instagram as well. So if you tag me, especially on Instagram, I spend a little bit more time there. I am very happy to show you guys off. And if you're new here and you enjoyed today's tutorial, I invite you to come hang out with me more often. Click that subscribe button. And don't forget to press that notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time a new video goes live. I try to post every Wednesday. So there you go. All right, guys. I wish you happy crocheting. Have an amazing day. Take good care of yourselves as always. And I'll see you guys in next week's session. Okay, bye-bye.